Hi, how are you? Welcome to this special of VTV, and I'm here with Julio Rondon, a recognized journalist. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being here in our multi-platform TeleSur and the public media of Venezuela. This Saturday, the Interior Minister of Venezuela unveiled the dismantle of terrorist plans against Venezuela in which participate a military from United States which is active. The connection from also from the Central of Intelligence of Spain. We have here in the studio the Minister Diosdado Cabello. Welcome.
Greetings to you for the invitation.
Thank you for this time. We seem like it's very important to tell this story. A few days ago, we found out that in Venezuela was an in-jail military, and no one knew exactly, but it was today, through you, that we heard about this military. Who is this character, and what is the role here in the history?
Wilmer Joseph Castañeda, that's right. First, let me help you out with something here. It's important to remember that day, they also stated that they had heard that a U.S. military, was detained in Venezuela, and he was supposedly doing personal stuff. That's the first thing that they did. But it's very strange that from the White House, expressed worries where the spokesman wanted that question to be made to him so that he could talk about it. Effectively, in Venezuela, a special operator was detained in Venezuela, a Navy SEAL, an elite group of the U.S. military army, Mr. Wilmer Joseph Castañeda, who is part since the year 2009 of the Navy SEALs. That man was in combat missions in Afghanistan in 2010 and in Iraq 2014, with a vast experience in sabotage and explosives, urban combat, and parachuting, free parachuting, an expert in mixed arms, rifles and guns. He was captured here in Venezuela on the 1st, on September 1st. A follow-up operation that through information that we had gathered, we began to search through phone connections, and we were able to detain him in a mountainous area in the Tobar colony. He has entered twice in the country, once in March and then on July 14th. On July 14th this year. He was going back and forth from Colombia and Venezuela, and the modus operandi that he used to enter Venezuela was through a relationship, an acquaintance, a lady. This gentleman, since he arrived in Venezuela, had begun to get in touch with politicians, with criminal groups, that the same U.S. has been saying that they are in their own territory, like the Tren Aragua. As a matter of fact, the person that he consolidated his link here in Venezuela is a person that was a partner of what we can call the second Tren de Aragua. And she was killed in Colombia, and she served as a liaison in Colombia, a high-level operator, military operator, that is already speaking about the active participation in these plans, but also on his phones, on his equipment, all these conversations, the contacts that he has had, the contacts of a person detained are also reflected there in a high criminal interest. Amidst all this operation that is being led, everything that we know about it, this person, Wilmer Joseph Castañeda, is the one leading all this operation that they had planned beginning after the elections in Venezuela.
You give data in the press release that this military that is active from United States, but besides with an appearance which is could be seen as casual, it could look like anyone in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have seen that in other times the operations, also with the knowledge of the authorities of the United States, have been given, but with other it looks military. What we have here in this particular case.
Yes, totally. I was saying during the press briefing, before during heading on, if we see the stereotype of the U.S. people detained from citizens from the U.S., a white person, high stature, blue eyes, all these characteristics. Here, no. Here we have this figure. Here you can see him here from the tropical area. And it's important to know that this person, the units in which he was working, are specialized unit of the SEALs that are dedicated to everything that has to do with Latin America, because it's comprised of people that speak perfect Spanish. In this case, this gentleman speaks perfect Spanish.
We have another thing that there's not a mercenary, another one.
No, he's an active military person, but you know that the U.S. operates with mercenaries because they send these people to different destinations, military chieftain, but the rest go through what they call the companies.
Anyone could think that the military that has this impact operation in a country as Venezuela, what would be the strategy to use?
It's correct to think that, but now we not only have this gentleman in detained, we also have another citizen, two Spanish, one from the Czech Republic, and another U.S. citizen, experts in hacking. An issue has to do with cybersecurity. That is all part of a great plan. A plan that aims to destabilize through terrorist actions and cyber attacks against Venezuelan institutions, which we have already lived in the last month. Different groups have claimed responsibility for the hacking of Venezuelan accounts to create a state of desperation, of anguish. And when we came out to give this information, it has to do with bringing calm to the people. We want our people to know what we're dealing with and that they trust in the work that we're doing.
You were speaking about two representatives from Spain that belong to the intelligence center there. And what is the answer of the minister?
It was predictable. I already said during the press briefing that Spain was going to say that they had nothing to do with this, because this gentleman, Wilber Joseph Castañeda, is the head. But in a way, he was going to be using mercenaries. We have a first-hand information where a person is saying that he was contacted by the Spanish intelligence service and he gave us the whole plan. These people, when they're detained at the first, they didn't say a thing, but then they admitted to be part of the Spanish intelligence service. And Spain, of course, are going to say no, that they are not. It's logical. But remember, a few days back, the defense minister of Spain, in an event that had nothing to do with politics, but in the presentation of a book, she came out and accused of barbarities. That person is confessing her active participation and has connection with political groups and Castañeda. They have connection also with criminal bands here in Venezuela, because part of the connection that this man was going to have, Castañeda, were through criminal groups to execute the operations. It's important also to say that during that press briefing, we expressed the country and the world the amount of weaponry that we detected through intelligence work. We detected more than 400 rifles.
How is connected the United States citizen with these weapons?
Look, not only the two Spanish, but the whole plot. Some days ago, President Nicolas Maduro who has been a person with an incredible constance to denounce to the world what is happening in Venezuela. He was talking about an attack that was going to take place with grenades. And through that information, we began to pull the thread, and we got to this person that was active. He was one of the active participants in the assassination attempt against President Nicolas Maduro. This person was detained, Miguel Estrada, that's right. He's doing 30 years in jail, and from there, he was leading a group of criminals. We pulled the thread and we arrived to the jail where he was. We took his phone, the connections that he had. There are 14 people involved in gangs. And in the conversations, they talk about explosives, about C4 explosives, to use them in the prisons. Because part of the plan was to get out of prison and use this weapon, a high caliber weapons. Even more, there are some weapons that say only to be used by the U.S. Army, forbidden its sale. So there's
this is army ammunition.
Exactly. It reads exactly that. It is forbidden its sale. It's an armament only to be used by the U.S. Army.
Also, the FBI has a follow-up of these plans.
It is important to know that what we are talking about today, we have talked about and we have denounced it, is just one part. They know, the Spanish intelligence service knows that we know more.
And it's not dismantled entirely, the operation?
No, the operation is not dismantled. We are on that process. We are dismantling the process. We told the world that we seized 400 rifles. This in Spain will be a big news. And Spain has to do with this. They are leading this operation. Spain, how can we say this? Spain is the one that was going to supply all the mercenaries to carry out this operation, the foreign mercenaries. So we can say that for days we have been working on the borders and we've captured them. And when we name these people, it's because these are ones that are confessing. No, yes, we have new findings. What we presented is from 3 days ago. But we have another person from the Czech Republic that is very important, that has worked as a mercenary in Europe, and is part of a group of commands, of mercenary commands, that have their name, the Z Command. We have there the list of everyone operating there, the videos of the training. They are on the books, on the notebooks of these people, how to torture, all the connections with the politicians in Venezuela. In truth, the work that is done, we could have said more. We could have said all this a week ago. But we have waited for the right moment to carry out more information, to get more information, to find the direct link with these gentlemen and the groups, and with everything that happened in Venezuela on the end of July.
To try to complete the map of the factors here, of this furnace, what we call mainly externally on the Aragua train, there's some kind of direct relation with this, or is a part of the headlines of the media?
It is an active part. This gentleman, he made contact with a young woman that is the person.
When you say the gentleman
Yes.
is the United States citizen,
Yes, the U.S. citizen Castañedas. He made contact with this lady, the partner of Angel Daniel, the member of the Tren Aragua, who was killed abroad between criminal activities. But in talks, there is a person that is referred to as El Flaco, and he lives in the U.S., but he comes here in Petare. But this is extremely grave, because we show it, and some are going to still saying that is not true. This gentleman, also known as El Flaco, here you have the phone and everything, the talks, from the day July 28th. We are active. What are we going to do? We are going to kill even the dog. This is what happened on July 28th. This is the phone of the active military man. And this is the connection with Alex.
That is the alleged connection with the Agua Tren.
And the connection with the Tren Aragua is the lady who was the second in command with Tren Aragua. We're gonna see what happens this night. This night is the July 28th. So the first text, they stole it. That's what it says here on July 29th. Then we come here, you see, they already announced that Maduro won. Venezuela is gonna be lit up. This is the conversation. See, the audio, we have it. Tell me, Flaco, we are seeing. So Castañal is doing the follow-up live of what is happening in Caracas. I'm seeing that Caracas is on fire and it's a war area. And the ones calling on the neighborhoods, they are ready to get out by force. You have to get to the palace. It's very difficult. There's a lot of police officers. That's what they say. Of course, the palace was surrounded. And the collectives are killing a lot of people. And this is not true because that's not what happened. People with weapons have to get organized and stage a large offensive operation. As soon as those that are forced to protect the palace are dying, they're going to lay down their weapons because not even them want to defend it. They're going to realize that it's not worth their life and they will surrender. A lot of innocent people are going to die. But to get the result that the country deserves, there is no other way. This is the days 29 and 30th. The people should establish a blockade so that no one leaves the palace and no one enters the palace. That not even a water bottle enters and everything that comes in and out, we are going to fill it with bullets. So this is a conversation. It's not like a good afternoon conversation. It's an organization, a criminal, a terrorist organization that once again goes back to the plan to take over the palace alongside the Spanish intelligence service. Among these, we have a person that comes from France whose mission was to take the international airport of Maiquetía. The French mercenaries that the intelligence Spanish agency was going to bring to the country. That was their mission. This is very similar to the Gedeon plan. Remember? The palace, the airport, the attack against political figures, against the transportation service, the water service, power, to take the people to the extreme. So that anything will be better than what is happening.
We want to know also this United States representative and some other governments, you clearly say that before, with characters from the extreme far right. We have names like Wilber Carr, another names like Juan Guaido and Leopoldo Lopez, who is articulating this from the far right inside of Venezuela.
See, it is important to say that nothing happens without the leadership of the U.S. government, because the U.S. government is leading all this through the CIA. We have no doubt of this. In the United States, Ivan Simonovich operates in the States. He's an arms dealer. He doesn't work for anything else but for weapons, for trafficking weapons. He does. And he has link with mafias in America and criminals that he supplies them with weapons. We presented videos and we have more videos, more evidence, where we can see the FBI doing inventory of the area where they were sending the weapons to Venezuela and they didn't do a thing. So why is the U.S. territory being used for these kinds of operations of killing a head of state, of a vice president of a foreign nation, of other officials to create a coup d'etat? Why does the states allow this? But I can guarantee that from a few moments from now, the U.S. will say they had nothing to do, and Mr. Castañeda will have to figure it out for himself. And of course, we are respecting Castañeda's human rights, but he's talking everything that we need him to talk about. And he's providing details that at some moment we're going to make public. You're asking, behind this operation is Miss Marina Corina Machado. She's leading the operation in the States, and the fight over in the States is fighting who is going to control the operation against Venezuela between Marina and Leopoldo. So they are seeing who is going to control it, the bands, the mafias. You also have Julio Borges, mentioned by them. There is a lady also known as La Niña, Belén Salas, that we have on pictures with Juan Pablo and Tonas Juanipa. These are not photoshops. She has it on her phone. It's public knowledge. They, even within this operation, they had planned to kill a mayor, the mayor of Upata, that has links with two Spanish men. And we have Mr. Chancellor as the contact from the Bolivar state, because the Bolivar state is like an objective because of the amount of companies and workers that they have there. We also have Mr. Carlos Vecchio. We have also a man of last name Jorman Varillas. He was accused of the death of a young man in the university. This was also public knowledge. He pushed against a sign and the glass made him bleed out, and that's why he ran out of Venezuela. Joran Barrilla. All these people with their connections in Colombia, Caracas, even more. In Colombia, it's an specific hotel. They all go through this hotel. All these people. They go to Aragua, Tren Aragua. So Aragua State, Caracas, and we have found some in Puerto Ayacucho. We found this in the Aragua State, who was detained. And link them with the opposition is not a wimp. It's that they have it there on the phones, the conversations on their phones. What happens that these people believe, and they firmly believe, that this operation was very easy. The same thing that happened with the people of Gedeon, that they thought, we're going to get to Venezuela, people are going to be waiting for us, we're going to act and ready. We take over Miraflores, put everyone in shackles, and we go from there. And the same, they are thinking to these people that it's going to be easy. And that we have captured these weapons, seized these weapons, that we have, that is also have them now, is a hard blow for them. Because for them, it's probably easy to get the weapons, but it's not easy to put them here in Venezuela.
So this operation have different phases.
So every time that we denounce something, we do it fully aware. They say no, but El País and El Mundo, they must remember Jorge Rodriguez, the president of the National Assembly, denouncing the Gedeon operation with names and the sites of training. The denunciation was made publicly. I was also able to do some denunciations about it. What did the US say at that moment? That it was a lie. What did Duque say at that time? That it was a lie. And they did it in the end. And we are now denouncing this because we are certain that they had another date. But the development have been getting complicated. The inner struggles, the divisions, the intelligence work that we have been carried out, in truth, in search for the peace of the country, it has brought results. Results that the people can perceive, because we have tranquility in our streets. We saw it with the Congress Against Fascism. People were surprised because they didn't believe how Venezuela was, and Venezuela is at peace. It's a happy country. This kind of thing, we denounce them. The intelligence agencies, the armed forces, they are going to guarantee peace because there are no bombs that only kill Chavez supporters. A bomb will kill anyone. And they're talking here about putting explosive. They put a price on the head of the president, of the vice president, of my own.
You're making it really clear, but I would like to ask because in a media level, it's been news. The subject that is going to they're saying that they're going to give the head of Maduro, and we can see that it's an undercover operation to take down the Venezuelan regime. It is involved in this terrorist action.
The worst thing about this is that what the U.S. wants to do this, and he does nothing. When they listen that a U.S. citizen is going to attack against the life of a president within his territory, and they don't do a thing. They don't lift a finger. As I was saying, the groups in the states that are fighting among them to see who are going to get the funds between Marina Corina and Leopoldo Lopez are on the hands of Eric Priest. Why him? I don't know. He's just a mercenary that only cares about money. But the U.S. government is not doing a thing so that this doesn't happen in its own territory. An open campaign that we're going to recollect funds to end the alleged tyranny in Venezuela.
With other governments that you've mentioned, Spain and Colombia, in the past they've been given information.
So this is the first official information that is public on this subject. We could have done it 5 days ago, but we were on the moment of gathering more details. We have said that from the Colombian government, from the time that Duque was ruling, it was very easy for them to have a beachhead. This is more difficult now. So now they migrated to Ecuador. And it's more difficult in Colombia now because there's now a government that doesn't collaborate them.
Prime Minister, you've been saying the violence wave in this country, so it's more difficult.
In this moment in Ecuador, they have the situation with Quintero. They're getting in touch with Quintero, with criminals, to try to get more people to bring them here to Venezuela. So Ecuador right now is the kingdom of drug traffickers and paramilitarism at all levels. This is without a doubt. So they have migrated a bit over there to Ecuador. Collaboration, no. We are just starting now. We would love the U.S. government to provide a statement and to talk about why they're using their own territory, why they're conspiring against another country, their own territory. Now they are in a political campaign, but they are there. And Spain, instead of putting their head under the ground, they should be investigating, because what the intelligence service of Spain is doing, they cannot be doing that without anyone else knowing.
There's something that I would like you to explain, is the grenades to the Argentinian embassy in Venezuela.
Yeah. There is a person named Maria Teresa that lives in Maracay. She's an active militant of the Party 20 Venezuela in the Aragua state. She's there in contacts with all these peoples, with the 2 Spanish men, with Mr. Casañeda, with Yandar Monsal. This lady is linked with all these people, direct communication, to create violent actions. In regards to the grenades, it's very easy to throw a grenade against the Argentine embassy in Caracas, especially since right now inside the embassy there are members of the opposition that are right now accused of terrorism, and they found refuge within the embassy. So if a grenade is launched against this embassy, who was going to be accused? The Venezuelan government. Fortunately, we gathered this information, and now the embassy has an extreme security, and now they are saying that we are blocking the embassy, we are harassing the embassy, but what we are really doing is preventing an attack from occurring, because they would blame Venezuela, they would blame our government and country.
There's other objectives a part of this plan.
Well, they were also going to attack police stations right now at that moment. Police stations, health centers. As a matter of fact, they threw a grenade in Sucre against the House of Peace. And that's when we began to pull in the threat because they stopped on a motorcycle, and through one of the cameras on the streets we managed to identify them, and then we got to this man who is also known as El Flaco, who has connections with Castañeda, and we got to a person also known as Petare. People all involved in operations with criminal guns. This operation is not the first against Venezuela. It is not the first. The scale, I think is greater. But it is the first time that we can say that we have a U.S. military active serviceman, in this case of the Navy, leading an operation, because the function of this man, Castañeda, was not to welcome his partner in Aragua. He's leading the operation. The day July 28th, 29th, and 30th, he was following up the situation around the Miraflores Palace. And he was going over the operation.
That is the conversation that you showed us today. Minister, this is time guided because President Maduro all the time alerted that while the Chavismo was making campaign, the opposition had different plans. One of them was to launch this violence. This is like the articulate violence in different moments that persisted in current times of the opposition of Venezuela that went to the polls but didn't achieve the victory.
So we have been denouncing this, especially the president, exactly. The president has been denouncing this, and he has assumed the defense of peace. And when we do this, is to defend peace, and we said it beforehand. The opposition sector, the extremist opposition sector in Venezuela, does not believe in elections. Their objective was not the elections. Even I denounced them. I denounced them in time. A leaflet that they were delivering, that on July 28th, I believe there were 5 points there. On July 28th, it doesn't matter the results of the National Electoral Service, they will take the Miraflores Palace. And it was on the program. And I denounced this. So what happened on July 28th, this is the first thing that they were going to do. And they went to the palace, they could not get there. On 29th, the offensive was even stronger. Remember that they attacked from San Martin and from Santa Capilla, for all the avenues. A little bit more shy, the attack in La Pastora, but there were also people there. Through the Sucre Avenue they tried to come up, but they could not because our people came out to defend the palace. The palace was surrounded by the people, but they were carrying out their plan. The president, when they denounced this, is because they were certain that their way was on the electoral. They didn't care about the elections. They didn't care about the results. They only cared that Venezuela enters in a state of chaos. Unfortunately, our armed forces came out and made sure that peace prevailed. Security services acted in time, and a lot of people were detained. That they denounced themselves because they were recording themselves doing all these criminal activities. 2 women were killed in Aragua. One of the links with the lady Clavijos is the attempted murder of another lady in Aragua who is linked because she was the head of the brigades, and the order was to kill her. Unfortunately, they were not able to kill her, but they did kill 2 other women just because out of hate, because they wanted chaos in Bolivar and Aragua. They wanted to create chaos. Fortunately, the security service and armed forces, they put a stop to this in time. I remember we came out to rally on Tuesday, 30th, July 30th. That's when we rallied. And people were afraid, but we took to the streets, and it was us who took the streets. And from that moment, that was the inflection point. Then we had the session of the assembly, the rally, and the statement and the presence of the armed forces and the police forces, and that gave peace to the country. I was saying this. I was talking with an ambassador on the 8th or 7th. Ask where there is a demonstration. There are no demonstrations in Venezuela. What they tried to do, they tried it on the 28th, 29th, and 30th, and they couldn't because they were defeated. Before this, the only option that they have is this kind of operations that they had thought they were going to work, but a good part of those rifles were captured days before the elections. And the biggest loot was during those days.
So how they entered the weapons to the country?
Yes, in regular vessels, in what they call door to door, they're sending deliveries. For example, we found some rifles dismantled in food, in dog food. So in one bag we found a certain mechanism of the rifles, and then in another. And then when we opened the whole thing, we had 12, 15, 20, 15, 50 rifles. So they were armed here in Venezuela. So they use names here in Venezuela. They use Simonovis here in Venezuela because he has armed trafficking all the time. Julio Robles, so the package was for you, but it was not for you. It was for Diosdado Cabello, for example. So when we do the follow-up, detain Julio Robles, so I have nothing to do this. I'm a teacher.
So it's like the subject, like this is religious group subject.
Exactly, like the groups, the WhatsApp groups of information that had religious names in prisons. The religious groups in prisons. And the groups with the thing about the terrorists was with a name related to religious activities.
And that implies a time, right? Good. To send the weapons through shipment is a network.
Yes, the plan that we got from Spain. They talk about number of rifles. They are listening to me, so they know what I'm talking about. The number of mercenaries, foreigners and nationals, and what was going to everyone and what function they had. And they know that this hit of the rifles, the seizure of the rifle, is very hard for their operation. This doesn't mean that they're going to do anything, because now is the time of despair for them. Because now they're coming out and saying that they have nothing to do in Spain and the US. Now they're going to enter in despair.
You were also telling that they communicated through the social media, through the platforms. That was the way of act.
That is correct. They use the social medias, like in some cases, between the prisons, because they didn't expect us to go in the prisons and took away the phones from them. And in the phones, we found everything openly, but outside of prison, they would use codes. Castañeda is an expert in those codes. The guy from the Czech Republic is also an expert. And from there he has from how to torture and how to survive in the jungle. And he had a log. 10:20 in the morning, I'm in this place. I've taken pictures of this and that. Noon, I was here. So yes, like a diary. Writing down everything that he was doing. And as soon as you see that this gentleman, the guy from the Czech Republic, has connections with Castañeda, with Maria Teresa, that also have links with the Spanish, all the conclusions that you get that is that it's a military operation to benefit a group. But it's not a military, it's a criminal operation to benefit a political group.
So, Minister, the big amount of the media is saying, as Patricia said, is the Tren de Aragua of United States. Why is related in this mercenary acts?
Well, because I believe in the end they are protecting these people. There were actions here to face these groups. They are not operating here in Venezuela.
Those are the ones which articulate to the plan.
Which are the people that are working. See, this is an extortion network, a huge extortion network that they all favor, and they're trying to bring that back.
And there's also inmates that belong to these gangs.
But also, you know that amidst the campaign and in the demonstration of July 28th and 29th and 30th, on the media they would have message of what they call the Tren de los Llanes, saying that the president had to surrender.
But they were dismantled with only 15 days.
Of course, we acted in the name of the Constitution that they could not operate in that manner, nowhere in the world, and even less here in Venezuela. And we did an operation and we continue to move forward on this. So I would like to say to the international community that they have to be clear of what is happening here in Venezuela, because from here comes the media war. Tomorrow, I guarantee that it's going to come up that the human rights are being violated, Castañeda's rights are being violated. He's detained, yes. Under the government of Venezuela, yes. Respecting the human rights, yes. But he's involved in a terrible plot against the country. There is no doubt about this. So the media in the world is going to say this, but here in a country, Venezuelans have to be sure and reassured that we're doing the correct thing, so that this doesn't go beyond where it has gone, because the end of these people is there on the plans. This much for President Maduro, this much for Delcy Rodriguez, this much for Diosdado Cabello, this much for a person. They have a plan. It's not the reward from the states. It's an additional reward for the operation. Yes, I'm sure that tomorrow the U.S. is going to say that we are violating all his human rights and that we have him illegally detained. When in the White House, the first thing that he said is that he was doing personal affairs. An active military man.
A script that is already being used, of course.
In this case, it's an active military man. How can an active military man go to another country to do whatever and they have no knowledge?
And the reason why he was found in the country.
And with the backgrounds of that person, because that person comes from fighting in Iraq, in Afghanistan, to provide expert training in explosive, and he was in Colombia in a unit providing training, according to what he's saying. And he named some people that were with him, U.S. colleagues of him. They talk of the Colombian army, and they have a name here, Lieutenant Carlos Núñez, with a phone number and everything. So who is Carlos Núñez? From the army or from a paramilitary in Colombia? So now we're going to ask for this information to the Colombian government to see how they can help us in this aspect, because we have the picture of where they were receiving training. And he did not come here alone. He came with 10 people. He entered with 10 people in Colombia. And among them there are some Zach, Gerard, John. This is what he's saying. This is what he's saying, that he took part in this meeting in Colombia, according to him, of training.
Thank you very much, Minister, to answer this question, to develop this history that's still ongoing.
It is in full development. And I thank you for your invitation, and we are here for whatever you need, so that we can say, as the investigation moves forward, with clear pressure, we are here for you.
Yes, because there is a lot of details, there is a lot of context that we need to understand these events that has a lot of impact in Venezuela, but also in all the region. And in this particular case, I have to say that there are nexus and connections with other countries in the world. Also is about aggressions that have been rehearsed in Venezuela.
And they won't stop. This is terrible. What I have here, this conversation on July 28th, 29th, and 30th is terrible. He's verifying the attack. He's supervising the attack against Miraflores. They cannot deny this. This is on his phone. He's leading this operation. what can one think? Well, Venezuelans are lucky. Nothing that they wanted happened, and a lot has to do with the work of the security forces of our country. We're going to work in silence, and we're going to guarantee peace in the country.
Thank you very much. Also, Julio, thank you very much, and thank you all. Thank you, Minister, as well. Thank you for joining us. We'll wait you as usual and to give you useful information. Until another opportunity. Bye.